So I think the thing with pitches that people tend not to appreciate is how much the order of your point matters. So you can look on the internet and get your checklist of slides you have to have, your problem slide, your solution slide, and so on. And you can be clever in terms of how you combine and mesh those into a sort of a beautiful graphic design. But the first test of a pitch is whether the audience understands what you're trying to do. And the test of that is whether the questions you get at the end of the pitch, or even partway through, are relevant to what you're actually talking about. So if you're trying to pitch a dog food company, are they asking you about dog food, right? And this seems like a really stupid thing, but it's surprisingly common for companies to be proposing a service in some market and being asked about a product in another market, right? It means that they didn't understand what it is you're proposing to go do or build or solve. And the other test is whether the questions ask you for things that you think you said. So I see a lot of post-mortem with founders that say, well, I pitched this investor and they ask me all these questions that are just like irrelevant. And I'm like, but I already told them that. They should know that, right? But that's your sign that your pitch was unclear. And what most likely happened is you thought that you got the full length of time in your pitch to communicate all your points, and the audience would passively ingest, synthesize, and understand everything you said, and then come back with an intelligent, mature perspective on it. What actually happens when you're talking to human beings is you get a page in, or 2 pages in, or a point in, or 2 points in, and you've activated all of these priors. And this is just the way our chimpanzee brains work, right? We perceive the world with the benefit of our expectations. Once you get a page or 2 pages in, you've activated, by saying anything, we're going after market Y, I have a 2-sided marketplace. You've activated all of these preconceptions, which are powerful because we call them lived experiences, right? And veteran status requires them. It's not a bug, it's a feature of talking to veteran business people. So you say, I want to make a 2-sided marketplace. Everyone's next statement is going to be, 2-sided marketplaces are hard. Tell me how you're going to get both parties to come together, right? If you don't then talk about that, they're going to spend the rest of the time wondering about that and ignoring everything you say. So your audience and their preconceptions or experiences or mental model of the world are as much part of your pitch as your points. Because remember, your pitch is about them, not you. It's not your novel that someone has to read to its completion to understand the story arc. It's a sequential series of points that are understood and reacted to in time by your audience. The typical investor has the attention span of a gnat, right? And they have to, because they see tons of pitches and they want to decide about a page and a half in whether or not they really want to read the rest of it. So you kind of have to think about your first page or 2 as buying the right to get to the 3rd and 4th page. And if you can get to that, by the time you get to about 4 or 5 points in, you've localized the discussion to the point where you can then go check off all the other but what about, but what about, what about. And if you get to the point where those questions and those reactions are all highly relevant and show an understanding of the things that you said, you're in a top decile situation in terms of the quality of your pitch. And from that point on, they might invest, they might not, but you kind of did about as well as you can do for your pitch. So I would shoot for understanding rather than agreement as the metric of whether your pitch is really good or not. And I'd say against that bar, most pitches I see fail by quite a lot. It takes a lot of work to get there.